Today on Lanorama, we are talking about music without sound, and my first guest has given a lot of thought to the way we experience music beyond our sense of sound. Professor Frank Russo is director of the Science of Music, Auditory Research and Technology Lab at Ryerson University, and he's also one of the minds behind the Emotichair. And Professor Russo joins me now from Toronto. Hello.
Hi there, Lana.
So, beyond hearing a song, what are some of the ways that you have learned that we experience music?
We've been looking at the other modalities, so in particular, seeing music and feeling music. And we've been asking whether or not you can get a good sense of the structure of music. So, for example, the progression of pitches over time. Or can you get a good sense of the emotion, some of the bigger picture things? You know, what is the general emotional tone of the piece that I'm experiencing right now? Can you get some of that beyond sound? And it turns out that you can. So we've spent a lot of time presenting silent videos to people and asking them to make emotional judgments and asking them to tell us how far apart two tones are in pitch. And a really interesting snapshot of that work is that even without sound, people are very accurate in making fine pitch discriminations. People who have heard their whole lives, their entire life, or people who have been deaf from birth seem to have a sense of what's going on structurally in the music without actually hearing it. So we have some ideas about why this happens. I could jump into that.
Well, I wanted to touch on what you found in your lab in as far as finding new ways to express that experience to those who can't hear.
Yeah, so the two main ways are presenting video where none exists, so live music is important, and using vibration. So we've known for a long time that deaf experience music through vibration. There are famous stories about Beethoven, for example, sawing the legs off his piano, lying down on the floor and feeling the vibrations through the floor when he became progressively deaf in his older age, and that allowed him to continue to compose. In the modern day, there are lots of dance clubs around the world that are focused on deaf youth, and the decibel levels in those venues is ridiculous. You know, it's literally deafening, and the reason that it's that loud is that they are feeling the music through the floorboards, and they're having a good time doing so. So we knew that this was a phenomenon, that you could make sense of pitch movement, of rhythm, of tempo through vibration. So we wanted to optimize the transfer of auditory information into vibration information. And we did that through this innovation that we came to be called the Emotichair. So essentially the Emotichair is a chair that has a number of voice coils, which we can just call vibrators. They're very, very sensitive vibrators that respond to the pitch and the loudness changes in the music over time. So these vibrators are embedded right in the chair. And the critical thing that we did is basically to separate out the different frequency ranges of music. So if I were to just buzz your arm with a bunch of vibration by turning up the volume and having you rest your arm on a speaker, you'd mainly just feel the thump, thump, thump from the bass and the drums. You wouldn't feel a lot of other things. Mm-hmm. But if we actually separate that energy, and we take the highs, we take the mids, and we take the lows, and we present them to different parts of your body, then you can feel all these things separately, and you can actually integrate it, make sense of it, and get a sense of the structure and the emotion in music. So just some snapshot findings are that deaf listeners, or deaf feelers, if you will, can discriminate emotion, so they can tell happy music from sad music based on the feeling alone. They can discriminate two timbres. So what I mean is the instrument quality. So they can tell that a pitch is coming from a cello as compared to a piano, just from the way that it feels. That's interesting on a scientific level. We didn't know that the tactile system could do the kind of analysis necessary to feel timbre, but it seems that you can. So that's the essence of it. And so we've had a lot of fun now exploiting this technology. And what I mean by exploiting is just bringing it to the public and doing some fun, creative things where we're no longer working on transferring music that's composed for sound into vibration, but we're actually working with composers and multimedia artists looking at ways of creating new compositions that are based in vibration.
Now, when you talked about the layout of the chair and the vibrators within it and the different, essentially, levels of sound, is there certain parts of the body where you'd want to have specific vibrations?
Is there a logic, right?
Like would the higher notes be on your arms or whatnot, kind of thing?
What we've done in the Emotive chair is we've mapped high to low, so the higher tones are in the higher part of the chair, and the lower are in your upper thighs. So, but we've also flipped the map, so we've had the high tones down low and the low tones up high. The critical thing, we believe, is that it just needs to be organized in some way. That your brain's going to make sense of the organization over time. If it was a random distribution, which we have tried, it does not work as well. The critical thing is that it's organized in some manner, and then over time you can make sense of it. The reason we choose the back, it might be counterintuitive to your listeners, like why the back? Like I don't really feel anything on my back. Why not the hands or the feet or something? The back is just ergonomically sensible because you're sitting down, and it's easy to feel vibration for an extended period of time on the back. We don't seem to like it very much when our hands are stimulated that way for an extended period, or some more sensitive part of our body is stimulated for an extended period that way. But it seems to work just fine with a gentle vibration. It is quite gentle. It's not as jarring as, say, a massage chair or something. It's a very gentle kind of vibration.
Now, earlier when you mentioned the nightclubs having nights for deaf youth with blasting loud music, and of course we kind of assume like the big bass and all of these like bigger dance sounds. But when it came down to testing songs in the Emotive chair, what ones were most effective? Were the ones that were composed? Were they composed of a certain genre of music?
We haven't done those kinds of tests. That would be interesting to to test whether hip hop works better than classical. I assume it would, because what you're suggesting, the lower frequencies carry better through vibration. But anecdotally, I can say that rhythmic music seems to work really well, and that's obvious. It's the tactile system is not really set up to make fine discriminations in frequency, but it is very sensitive to slower changes. So by slower, I mean changes that take place over time, or what we might call rhythm. So music with a good groove, a lot of low-frequency information tends to work really well. The other thing we've been finding in working with composers and doing events is that music with a wide pitch range tends to feel really nice. So having this vibration cascade or dance along your body is aesthetically very pleasing. So some of the composers who have developed vibrational pieces, and I don't know if you're talking to any of them at some point. But,
we'll be talking to Stéphane.
Stéphane Vera, yeah. So he's played a lot with that, with composing with vibration in mind rather than sound in mind. And some of that is what's aesthetically pleasing to the body is not necessarily the same thing that is aesthetically pleasing to the ear. So harmonies are not as critical. Melody is critical. Rhythm is critical.
So fascinating. And thank you so much for coming on the show today.